everyone, it's Jess here. In today's video, I want to dive into a topic that I know a lot of us struggle with, which is imposter syndrome. So you know that nagging feeling that you're not good enough or just really don't deserve your achievements? If so, you're not alone. This video is for you. In today's video, we're going to discuss what imposter syndrome is, why so many of us struggle with it, and most importantly, how to overcome it. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is imposter syndrome? Well, according to the dictionary, imposter syndrome is the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own effort or skills. So in simple terms, imposter syndrome is that deep, persistent fear of getting exposed as being a fraud. I think so many of us have felt this way. Even when you've accomplished something incredible, you really just feel like you were lucky or you don't truly deserve it. It's so common in high achievers and can really happen in any area of your life, whether it be your career, your school, or even your personal relationships. According to the research, people with imposter syndrome often feel self-doubt or undervalue their contributions, or they attribute all their success to things like luck and timing. Crazy enough, even people we look up to like CEOs, celebrities, and other high achievers still experience imposter syndrome. Even though in our eyes it seems like they've completely made it, they still get nervous, they still feel like they're frauds sometimes. So if you've ever felt like this, you're not alone. It's estimated that about 70% of people will feel imposter syndrome at some point in their life. Now let's talk about why we experience it. So the causes of imposter syndrome can definitely vary, but lots of it is due to unrealistic expectations or just a desire to be perfect. You may feel like you need to perform flawlessly in different areas of your life, and when you inevitably don't, because we are all human and make mistakes, this reinforces the feelings of inadequacy. Imposter syndrome often stems from internalizing societal expectations, whether it be trying to meet impossible standards or just comparing yourselves to others. And of course, in our world of nonstop social media, it's easier than ever to compare ourselves to others, but it's important to remember that everyone we look up to at some point felt like a fraud, or they still might to this day. Perfectionism is a huge factor of imposter syndrome. Even people who are really high achievers might feel like they're falling short because they're not perfect. When they fall short, they feel like failures, even though they're objectively pretty successful. And I actually talked all about perfectionism in one of my earlier videos, so I will definitely link in the description box below and pop it up on screen here. Okay, now let's get to the good stuff. How can we tackle imposter syndrome head on? Well, I've got some great practical tips based on research and advice from experts in the area. My ultimate caveat in making this video, I'm in no way saying that I do not suffer from imposter syndrome. In fact, I do a lot, which is a large reason why I want to do research about this topic and make a video about it. All right, let's get into it. The first step is to recognize that imposter syndrome is happening. So when those thoughts creep in that you're just not good enough or you don't belong there, it's really important to separate those emotion-filled thoughts from actual fact. Just because you feel like a fraud does not mean that you are one. One of my favorite quotes is that there's no growth in the comfort zone and there's no comfort in the growth zone. In a way, it can actually be good to find yourself in situations where you feel uncomfortable or not fully prepared. Looking back at my life, my biggest accomplishments and the things that I'm most proud of happened when I finally forced myself to step out of my comfort zone. In fact, I talked about this in depth in my video about the 10 things I learned in college, so I'll also link that below and pop it on the screen here. One helpful tip if you feel like a fraud is to actually talk it out with a friend or trusted mentor. Sometimes just vocalizing these thoughts makes you realize how irrational they are, and they can help you realize that you actually do belong there and you actually are totally capable and competent. Imposter syndrome thrives in isolation and making you feel small, so opening up to others can really take away that power. All right, moving right along is tip number 2, which is to own your success. It's important to take ownership of your achievements. Remind yourself that your success is not due to luck. It's due to your hard work, your talents, and the time that you put in. A great way to reinforce this is to track your successes in a success journal, and there you can track your wins, both big and small. This is a great tangible reminder of just how capable you are and all of your different accomplishments. For me personally, keeping a success journal has been so helpful in my corporate career. This is actually something one of my mentors previously recommended. And so after doing the success journal for a while, it really helped my confidence. And then it also helped me have some leverage when it came time to negotiating raises or taking on more responsibility. Tip number 3 is to stop comparing yourself to others. Oof, this one is a doozy, and I know it's easier said than done, but just hear me out. One of the biggest triggers of imposter syndrome is comparison, especially social media these days. It can make it really seem like everyone has it figured out, and you don't. But just remind yourself that what you see on social media isn't real. It's typically a highlight reel, and it's not actually what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. So, like I said, easier said than done, but it's really important to focus on your own journey and celebrate the progress that you have made. And if you're feeling down about where you're currently at, just remind yourself that everyone who was successful had to start somewhere. They definitely were not always as confident or as capable as they are. They definitely felt like an imposter or a fraud at some point. One thing I love to do is go look at my favorite YouTubers or podcasters and go back to their first episodes or their first videos. And it's really cool to see just how much they've grown since that original starting point. But the important thing that they did is that they started, and that's the important thing that each of us need to do as well. Another helpful tip is to define what good enough means for you. Imposter syndrome pushes us to try to be perfect in every element of our life, but that's just not realistic and not sustainable. You're definitely going to be super burnt out and just not achieve the things you wanted to do. So ask yourself, what tasks are important enough to put extra effort into, and which ones are you okay to accept just good enough? This will really help you manage your different priorities and help you prevent burnout. As someone who previously thought that the only option was to give 110% of myself to everything I did, I really resonate with this. I really discovered when I was trying to do that, like I wasn't doing a good job at really anything. And I was feeling super exhausted, super tired, and I was just not thriving. So this tip really means a lot. One of my favorite personal development books is a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and it really supports this idea. In the book, it really encourages people to focus on the things that are most essential to their career or whatever task they're doing, and which things are simply not important. And he encourages us to put our focus and efforts into the things that are truly essential or make the biggest impact. If you haven't read it before, I definitely recommend you check it out. It was such an eye-opener for me. Another powerful example, I was actually listening to a podcast about imposter syndrome. In it, they talk about the concept of people usually feeling like they have to have a 10 out of 10 understanding of something before they can teach it, before they can make a video about it or sell a course about it. But she pushed back on this idea and said, even if you just have like a 7 out of 10 understanding or an 8 out of 10 understanding, you still can help everyone who has lower level of understanding. So don't let not feeling like you're perfect or like you know every single thing hold you back from doing it, because you can still help a lot of people on your journey. And to get a bit vulnerable, I try to remind myself that while making videos on this channel, while I don't feel like I'm maybe the biggest expert in the world on the topics I discuss, I still think I have things that are helpful to share, and I wanted to add my voice to the mix. Okay, on to our final tip. Tip number 5 is to fake it till you make it. Okay, I know this is unbelievably cheesy and cliche, but you know I had to include it. I had to finish with a bang. And in case I haven't said it enough times in this video, pretty much everyone who's successful or seems like they have their lives together is probably faking it in some way. For me, this became really apparent when I started my corporate career. Growing up, I just thought people who worked at these big companies had their life together. They knew everything, but that is not the case. Lots of times they're just figuring it out as well. So we're all just faking it until we make it, but you can still do a great job even if you don't know everything. In my life, I've noticed that I become the most stressed or anxious when I just keep thinking about the thing that I need to do. But once I actually start taking action, it becomes much less scary. I think we've all been there. You're probably like me and have put off big school projects or big work projects because they seemed overwhelming. Then you finally start working on them and you realize they're not so bad after all. Combat anxiety with action. As you continue to show up or fake it, your confidence will continue to grow. If you want to become a YouTuber, make YouTube videos. If you want to be a runner, go on runs. If you want to be an author, start writing. Even if you feel like you're faking it initially, after you take this action for long enough, eventually your identity will shift. I truly believe that we're all imposters until we aren't. In conclusion, imposter syndrome might not go away overnight, but by recognizing it and by practicing these different tips, you can definitely start to silence that inner critic. Remember, even the most successful people feel like frauds sometimes. The fact that you care so much about your growth really just shows that you are so capable. So don't give up, keep trying. Thanks so much for watching, and I'd love to hear from you. Let me know your favorite tip from today's video, or share your experiences with overcoming imposter syndrome in the comment section below. All right, see you in the next video.